Morning, everybody. This is the Senate Agricultural Committee meeting. It's Wednesday, March 9th. And we have three of us are in the committee room, Senator Polina and Senator Collmore and myself. And Senator Perrin had to go to the Ag Committee to testify, but will be coming back shortly. And we have Senator Pearson on Zoom. And we also have Diane Boswell on Zoom. Morning, Diane.
Good morning, Senator Starr.
I guess we set this meeting up at a good time. I guess you have some good news to report to us, and so we certainly, maybe you knew it was coming, but we didn't, and we were just wondering how that was all going with Horizon and those farmers, because of course that's a major concern of everybody here in the state, and so it's good to have you with us to run over that. So welcome, and we'll give the floor over to you.
Thank you very much, Senator Starr. Diane Bothfeld, Vermont Agency of Agriculture, Food and Markets. I'm a Director of Administrative Services. So yeah, this is a great day. We have some wonderful news to talk about, at least three things to talk about. When we set this up, we had recently sent out our options for farmers, which were okay options, but not a lot of variety. So this is great news that has come to us. So I'll go over the things in chronological order. That the announcement yesterday of Organic Valley that they will take on the farms in Vermont who were impacted by Danone Horizon. So that's very positive. Last August, 28 dairy farms were impacted in Vermont by the announcement of Horizon, August of 2021. Since that time, 5 have ceased operations. They're no longer milking cows. So we're at 23. We know that Stonyfield is another organic buyer. They have been in the state, and they propose to take on 3 to 4 farms of that 23. And Organic Valley has made offers to all of the farms, and a farm would have to choose between an offer from Stonyfield or Organic Valley, but that's a very small number that were offered something by Stonyfield. So now it's time for the farmers to review what the offer is and determine if that works for them. When we have been working with farmers throughout this process, this was one of their great desires, that someone would come in and buy the milk as they have in the past. The milk would go on the truck. They wouldn't have to worry about it. They'd be paid. So that was of a great desire for the farmers. So this is a very positive step. We don't have any details at the agency of what's being offered by Stonyfield or Organic Valley. So if you need details on that, I would encourage you to invite them in to provide any of those details. But it is an organic market. It is at an organic price. Which was really something that the farmers were looking for. So we also know that from the organic buyers that some of the farmers need to do some things before they can access these markets. So that is something that we knew about. We knew that Organic Valley and Stonyfield had been visiting farmers. They informed the agency that there's some areas that some farms will need to fix before they can become members. So that list includes a temperature chart recorder for the bulk tank. It's a recorder that attaches and just monitors the temperature of the bulk tank, making sure the milk has been kept at a low temperature where it needs to be. And it's you've seen those circles with little pen scribbles on it. It's that kind of chart recorder. Those are not tremendously expensive. They can be retrofitted onto old bulk tanks, probably around $1,500 to $2,000 a piece. So not zero, not a lot of money, but plenty of money. So that's one thing that some farms, probably about 4, I think, farms, so not a lot out of this 23, need to update to that. There were 2 farms very clearly stated that their bulk tanks would only hold milk for 1 day. And the requirement for both of these buyers is to have enough capacity to go to every other day. So a larger bulk tank. That's a bigger expense, and probably 20 to 30,000 on that. A lot of it could be the construction, because these things are not easy to get out of the current milk house. You take out a wall, and maybe in some cases you have to raise the ceiling depending on the structure. So that's kind of the variable there. The bulk tank itself could be anywhere from 10 to 20,000, but then adding in potential construction is an unknown. So that was 2 farms.
How many farms may need to change their bulk tank?
2.
Or
Just 2. Yeah. The other was a bigger issue. So both of these buyers are going to move milk a distance. The days for the organic market, a 10-wheel truck, smaller trucks are going past. Every farm needs to have accessibility to a tractor trailer. There's 2 that the driveways just don't do it. And driveway, that's a huge variable of what's got to happen there. They got to take down trees. They got to put culverts in. What's that? So that is a tougher estimate, but we're estimating probably 20 to 30,000, just unknown. Getting a contractor, getting equipment, getting gravel, getting culverts. So we haven't gone deep into the assessment of those yet, but we know that those are 2 out there. That's a tough one. Nobody wants to pay. No grants are available for driveways. So that's a tough one. It just doesn't fit any of the current granting programs. So that's kind of a hole in the donut of what's possible there. So those are only a couple farms there. Also, some of the farms have what they call headlock stanchions. They close around the animal's head and hold it. They're wood, or in some cases metal. The animal well-being standards that the organics are following do not allow that. They could have a rail with a collar and a chain to the rail. That's okay. But these headlock stanchions, so that's a retrofit too. That's a big change. 2 farms there need to change that out. So that's another issue. The grants available at this point could do the materials, but not the construction. So there's another hole in the donut of what could be paid for at this point with some of these granting dollars that are showing up, but we'll get into detail on that in a minute as well. Last couple of things that really needing to, in some cases, step up their grazing. Every organic farm has to graze their cattle. Some are meeting the standards, but these 2 buyers require a little more intensive rotational grazing. So there are programs available existing in the agency. We are granting funds out for water quality to improve grazing. So water systems, better fencing, laneways, those kind of things. So we feel there's probably 5 farms that need to do a little better on grazing. So that is not unheard of. There's currently through the Dairy Business Innovation Center, there's these grazing cohorts teaching people how to graze better. So we feel that's well covered, but just encouraging these farms to come forward. So those are the areas of concern for these buyers that need to be updated and changed prior to their accessing this new market.
Brian?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a question, Diane, and thank you for that good news. It's always good to get, even though it seems to be mixed with some challenges, it's still overall a good thing. Going back to the 2 farms that need to change the driveway procedure, is it possible, feasible, and reasonably inexpensive, rather than do a whole bunch of reconstruction on a driveway, to have a couple of 10-wheel trucks come in? In other words, if the idea is there's too much milk for a small truck, why not just have a couple of trucks come in and take the milk out? Is that even possible?
The trucks exist. The issue is where the milk is going to be delivered to. So if the milk is going to be delivered to, well, Stonyfield Yogurt is down in Londonderry, New Hampshire, running a half full truck down the road to Stonyfield, 10 wheelers versus tractor trailers. The tractor trailer is more efficient. Everybody's got concerns about diesel fuel and hours and et cetera. So the efficiency of putting it all on one truck. The other possibility is, okay, you got a little bit of milk on this truck, you go to a depot, you offload it, you unload it to the tractor trailer. Those efficiencies are just, it's going to be the way of the world.
Okay.
Yeah, it's coming. Currently hauling is an issue that's going to be worked on. The availability of drivers, their skill levels. Picking up milk is the big issue for hauling. To 7 days a week. You got to go on Sundays. You got to go on Christmas. You got to go on the holiday. There is no stopping. And this has been a tough one to fill for those drivers. So the ability to have everybody go on a tractor trailer is where the industry is headed, even for conventional farms at some point. I mean, we're not there yet, but certainly a concern area for conventional farms as well.
Thank you.
Will these Horizon organic farmers that are switching over, won't this help Organic Valley, who's already here buying milk? Are those farms located near each other or in the same general area, so it won't make a big difference in chasing around the state in different directions?
Yeah, Organic Valley certainly looked at where all these farms were in relationship to the other farms that they already have in the state. So yeah, that is certainly one of the criteria they utilized, but they determined that every one of the farms was within a reasonable distance to other farms that they already have in Vermont.
And yesterday, at our meeting here at the, our ag committee meeting, we talked about several of the issues that you just brought up that were gonna be a problem, like the driveway issue, the phasing out of everyday pickup tanks, and so we've started work on putting together a request to hopefully get into the 23 budget to help fix some of these issues. And if I think it would be most helpful if you folks could come up with some estimates and round numbers that if we decide to move forward with that, we could put together and take to appropriations. You guys don't have, you folks at the agency don't have any money like, see, I think Efficiency Vermont has $100 million that we funnel in there every year. And to help with efficiencies, well, bulk tanks, if you can go from an everyday pickup to a every 2-day pickup, I should think a bigger tank would help the efficiency and a new cooling system, maybe a plate coolers rather than the old custom operating bulk tank coolers. I should think that would help with efficiencies on the farm, and so there should be some money there too.
I believe there is. I would encourage you to speak directly to them on what they're providing. I'm not sure if it's cost share or outright grants or low interest loans. So I don't have the details of that program. I think the funds, so we can move into the funds that are coming from USDA, which is very exciting. The infrastructure was one of the things that grants could be made for from this 20 million coming into the Dairy Business Innovation Center. So the ability to grant a farmer funds to get a bulk tank is possible. It's the construction that is not. So the 20 million will move into that. So very exciting news last week. When the Danone Horizon Vermont Task Force was put together, and the announcement was made by Horizon that they were no longer going to pick up milk from these farms, Secretary Vilsack reached out and asked for a regional work group on recommendations to assist these farms. So that's USDA doesn't usually reach out. So that was a wow kind of moment. So Laura Ginsburg manages our Northeast Dairy Business Innovation Center at the agency. She's away on vacation, or she would be telling you about this, because she's done all the work, and I give her 120%. She worked really hard on this. So brought a regional group together, Maine, Vermont, New Hampshire, and New York State, talking about what the needs were for these farms, what's the need for capacity for processing facilities, what's needed for changes in federal policy around organic. So a lot of work there, and she did a tremendous job. So this announcement about the 20 million will come to the Dairy Business Innovation Center, managed through the agency, but is available for all these, all the states of that region. We have to put in a plan of how we would utilize those funds, but really the work is already done because of the regional group that was brought together. And here are the areas that they brought up for work, and that was to expand organic products in institutional markets, colleges, hospitals, schools, etc. Work on this distribution, milk hauling, drivers, insurance, 10-wheel trucks, etc. Farm business viability, milk storage, potentially driveways. We're still not sure we can use it for that or not. And then technical assistance. Come in and do an overview of the whole farm, or what are some of these infrastructure things that you may need to change. Marketing and market development, working on that access to the market. Continue to work on those federal policies, and then the processing capacity. How do we expand capacity in the Northeast? So we have to put together a more detailed plan of exactly what all of that means, submit it, and then the funds will come. It's not a competitive process. It's not that we're going to get shut out of that 20 million, but we have to give a more detailed plan of how we would utilize those funds. So that's due to USDA the end of this month, and we will move quickly on that. We don't have to start from scratch. We have a lot of great recommendations. So getting that all together, and then how can we assist those farms? There may still be money that is not do we do a match or anything on these grants or not? We did talk to, prior to the knowledge of USDA coming out with funding, we talked to the foundations in Vermont about these needs for these farms, the bulk tanks and the chart recorders and those kind of things, and what was possible. We had a really good conversation with the Farmers Fund, which is associated with the Center for the Ag Economy in Hardwick, and as well as Pete's Greens. That started after Pete's Greens had their fire. So we've had some conversations with them. They may be able to provide some match funds if that's needed for these programs, or if it's something that can't be granted as the construction, they possibly could come in and assist with that. But hearing that you're interested in potentially legislative funding, yeah, if there's anything that can't be funded by USDA, that would be a great place to target legislative funds or state funds, just because maybe we can have that better flexibility. So that would be certainly an area, but we have some more work to do to access that 20 million. It is about the organic, but it will have to be open to all types of dairy farms and all types of dairy processors. So certainly, we will make sure that we take care of this group of 23 farms, whatever their needs are, but also this would be open to other farms and dairy farms in the state as well.
And how soon do they have to switch over from Horizon to Organic Valley? As soon as they make these updates, or is it
There's
6 months, or
well,
a year?
the contracts with Horizon are good out through the end of February 2023. So we're not in a oh my goodness, the contract's going to run out issue for these farms. They have a home currently. I would imagine that Organic Valley would bring farms on potentially in a staggered method, potentially. I don't know. That would be a good conversation for them. There's always a concern in the spring when schools close, but the volume of milk goes up for those who graze. So there may be some timing around, maybe farms come on after the spring flush of May, June, July, or not. So I don't know. That would be a good conversation for Organic Valley, but there is time. We're very pleased that we don't have to get everything done with the initial timeline, which was the end of August 2022. Now we have until February 2023 to get some of these things done on these farms, et cetera. If someone doesn't have anything, if a farmer doesn't have any requirements, no changes needed, then that timing is up to the buyer of when they would come on. But there is nothing holding them back, but it's all about the timing of when the new buyer chooses to take them in.
But February of 23 may as well be October of 22. I mean, you aren't going to be building a milk house and changing a bulk tank in November and December here in Vermont. So it's stuff that should be done this summer. Construction, driveway updates. I mean, it's this summer that's got to happen.
Absolutely. So the plan is to move as fast as we can with USDA to be able to have these funds available and be able to grant them out. But they have their own timeline. They understand the expeditious nature as well. And this is and it isn't. Yes, we know we need to get some of these upgrades made, but the funding once acquired is out through 2026. So yes, we have things that need to be done right away, especially, for the farmers and accessing this market. But some of the other areas, as in, growing demand at institutions or looking at processing capacity, there's a little more time for that. So yes, the farmers and accessing this market, first priority, getting that program up and running as quickly as possible and moving forward. But yeah. And you asked, does the agency have a pot of money for this? No, not unrestricted. So Working Lands is there as well. The Northeast Dairy Business Innovation Center money. So those types of specified funding are available, but not just a general pool of money, somebody hoping they want to spend it. No, we don't have anything like that in our budget.
Is that like the Working Lands? I think we got 10 million in there. I think we're putting in 10 million.
So yeah, there's last year you provided 5 million extra. The BA had 2 million in it. And we've increased, and we're requesting in our budget to bring the granting program to a full $1 million on our base funding in this year's budget. So that would bring us at getting closer to 10 million, 9, 5 million, 2 million is 7, and another $1 million is 8. So
that money though is pretty well asked for. I mean, there's a long list of applicants waiting on that. But if it's I think it's going to be quite important then for us to try to put some money in a pot that in case there's cost sharing and helping. I don't know if that's something you're gonna try to put together in a little ask, or if we asked you to, could you put together some figures that might possibly be needed to make this stuff happen?
Yes, I think we could. I will state that we support the governor's budget as proposed, just getting that in there, making sure. So the buyers, Stonyfield and Organic Valley, once these announcements are passed, they're willing to provide us the names of the folks that need these upgrades. The plan is to utilize the task force members to, quote unquote, descend upon these farms and help them get to where they need to be. as quickly
Yeah.
as possible. We don't have the specific names yet, but they were very clear that they would share them with us, and we would utilize Farm Viability and the agency and others to, you know, descend upon them and try to help them get to where they need to be able to access a market. So that is certainly a plan right away. And timing wise, you know, getting those estimates. Yeah, I mean, we can do the chart recorders. You know, we know the numbers already. We've already researched those. The bulk tanks would be getting specifically into the farm and what do they have now? What do they need? We don't have those specifics. The driveway, I'm hopeful that we may be able to divert one of our engineers from water quality to go do a couple driveways, maybe. You know, trying to parse out our resources a little bit and then have some determinations there. So it won't be immediate, but we can certainly, if we're back of the enveloping already, we'd probably be around, well, 500,000 probably covers the farms. You know, I guess there's some variables there around construction and availability is the big question right now for everybody. Finding, you know, construction people to do building construction, people to do driveways, heavy equipment. That's an availability thing that is really hitting a lot of our projects right now. So that's a big question mark. And cost overruns and requirements right now, you know, maybe 500,000 isn't enough, but I think the fact that we'll utilize the DBIC money as much as possible, and then it's these other pieces that may not be eligible. It is the assistance a farmer would need. Making a decision, does the farmer have any skin in this game? Do they have to have a cost share? You know, those kind of questions I would leave up to you. But I think if we had 500,000 that wasn't specifically, you must do this, but to fill in the areas where other grants aren't available, that would be great. I think it's difficult. I know you're probably looking at ARPA dollars, but I would almost beg you not to give us ARPA dollars because they have a lot of strings on them and it's not easy to use them. The farmers have to jump through a lot of hoops, and that is a concern. So now that I'm talking with you, the DMC payment is ARPA dollars now, and the hoops that farmers will need to jump through. The program is not now as simple as it would have been if it was general funds. There'll be more hoops to jump through, more reporting and more requirements of the farmers to access these funds than there would have been if it's general funds. So we'll get there, but it just is not going to be as quick or as simple.
The other issue, if we, you know, if this all goes well and we can get this done, I think that's going to be one headache that's gone, and hopefully we can add more organic farms as we move forward, or small farms decide that they got to change their practices to be able to make a living, and they switch. But the other issue we've got that we've heard about that needs addressing is we had Cabot Creamery in back a while ago, and they were saying that, of course, they've had a tremendous problem with help. And they were telling us that if they could automate their cut and wrap lines, that would save roughly maybe 8 people that have to work that line. And if they work it the way I understood it, 24 hours a day, that means they've either got to have 2 shifts of 12 hours or 3 shifts of 8 hours, and that they actually need some help. I think they didn't ask for it, but they certainly were leaning toward asking that if they had some help to upgrade these cut and wrap lines to go to all automation, that that they have sales for all the cheese, that they can't make it fast enough and get it out quick enough to cover all their sales. And if the cheese moves out, of course, then they could take more milk. And if they take more milk, they make more cheese. So that's another area that I did send Anson a note in regards to that. Oh, maybe a week ago or so. And yeah, it was while we were off, and so I don't know if he's. I think he said he was going to be meeting with them or had a meeting set up with them or something. But that, I think that would be a wonderful way of using some of that 20 million, because it's to enhance the ag products processing business and yeah, if we could. Well, the other thing that guy mentioned was, you know, if we can't get enough help and we're running behind, you know, I hate to even say this, but we might have to move this to a bigger place where there's more people around to be able to hire more. And the other issue they mentioned was housing for some of these people. And Gus over at VHCB that handles a lot of housing is looking in and working with those people at the creamery, because they have like 200 acres of land there, and the village water, village sewer. So Gus is working with them on some kind of a deal to put some housing in up there as well to handle worker housing. But yeah, if we can help anywhere, you know, along the way.
Yeah,
Well,
this 20 million, this first announcement of 20 million, capacity for processing is certainly a part of that. The
Yeah.
numbers get big pretty fast. When you talk about what Cabot's talking about, we're not talking 100,000, we're talking a couple million, if not 5 to 10 million. So the size of the grants, we're hoping we can do some much larger ones, and also be able to support the smaller ones. We are also hearing out of USDA, they did a very large across the country money for slaughter across the whole United States. So they put out another, 20 million, or might even be 50 million, but there's rumbles that there'll be a similar announcement coming soon for dairy processing. So yeah, we have this 20 million that was for the Dairy Business Innovation Center, but USDA, there's rumbles they'll come out nationally with a dairy processing infrastructure program across the board. So there may be a couple ways for processors like Cabot to access money to upgrade, but it's certainly come to light the needs of, the fact of employees not being able to find who you need, but also the ability to upgrade and modernize is big. Yeah, I understand their concerns, absolutely. And if they can't operate 3 shifts or 2 12-hour shifts, they're stuck, because the milk comes in, their trucks come into those facilities starting as early as 4, 5 a.m. and continue well past midnight. So there are very little downtime of when trucks are rolling into those facilities to provide the milk, and then 3 shifts to make cheese would be really helpful. So very important stuff. But yeah, there's good. The 20 million is there. Certainly a portion will be for processing capacity, but then also what is USDA tells us it's coming, but we haven't heard anything yet about a bigger program nationally for dairy processing capacity.
Brian?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I just want to make sure I got the numbers right, Diane. Those 23 farms total, 2 of them had driveway issues, 4 of them had bulk tank issues.
Recording, temperature recorders, that's the cheap stuff. 2 need a new bulk tank.
Okay, so that leaves 17 farms that apparently are all set to go, right?
There's 2 that have that stanchion issue. They have to change it.
Oh, yeah.
So that's a
Okay.
big one.
Well,
And I can't tell you if some of these are the same people. I don't know. They haven't given us the
Yeah.
names that does one farm have all of these problems, or I don't know that,
Yeah,
but those were
okay.
that's how they highlighted it to us, that two need to do this, two need to do that, so yeah, but we will descend upon them like a flock of locusts here in the near future, as soon as we know the names, to really work with them to, let's get it fixed. Let's get you going. Let's get this done. So I mean, that yes, of course, they have to be willing and want to, but if they want to market, these are the things they're going to have to do.
And not to, the figure you gave us, I realize it's gonna change to some degree, but you're pretty confident 500 grand would be what you're looking for.
Well, even if we multiplied everybody by 50,000, we have 2, 4, 6, the small stuff, the chart recorders, $2,000 or less. That's times 4 is what, $8,000. So that's not my worry. But if you do the bulk tanks and the driveways even at 50,000 each, that's by 4 is 4 times 2. There's your 200,000. So 500,000 really should cover a lot of stuff.
Yep.
And that's just, back of the envelope. Maybe we're way on, maybe materials are that much more expensive. I don't know, but that's twice a back of the envelope estimate. So it should cover a lot. But I mean, for your program, I mean, if you need to open that to all farms in Vermont, then no, 500,000 would not be enough. I'm sure there's lots of other farms in the driveway area. There's lots of farms in the bulk tank. So if you were opening that to all farms in Vermont, then no, 500,000 is not enough money. So that's a caveat that's organic. Those organic farms that are required to have these changes.
Yeah.
Both co-ops have farms that are in the same shape. And so, we've got to open it up to them as well, because, they don't like picking milk up with the small trucks anymore. And, all of this is I see it as very important to, from the individual farms all the way through to processing. And like the Cabot issue, I see that as a very critical issue to strengthen that organization, as well as getting the product out. We're down to only 2 buyers basically now, other conventional milk, with DFA and Agrimark Cabot. And I'd hate to see us get to 1.
Yeah, we have National Farmers Organization, NFO. They are still somewhat independent, but I think the DFA system manages their payroll, so not overly independent. Yeah. The other one that's in the state is Upstate Niagara. They pick up they're cooperative out of New York State. They pick up 5 farms for organic milk. And they're very selective, and they were not interested in picking up any more farms. So, yeah, there's not a lot of options left. You're correct.
No, and so it's important that we keep what we do have and help them if they need help to, if they're, as long as it makes sense and it's helping our rural economy and our farmers. It's pretty important. Any other questions on the organic stuff and milk stuff with Diane? No.
Also,
you had a question, Senator Starr, around Perigrow PBM Nutritionals up in Georgia. Linda sent me an email asking a specific question about that processing facility. They're licensed to process between 10 to 50,000 pounds of milk per day. Currently, the data coming back from their inspection is that they're utilizing 6,000 pounds of dried milk powder per day.
How much?
6,000 pounds of dried milk powder. They don't pull it, they don't take in milk, fluid milk from a farm. They take in dried milk powders to mix to make their, they make infant formulas.
So that's basically 3 ton.
Yes, 3 ton per day.
And do you know where does
I
that
do
come
not.
from St. Albans?
I do not know.
And is there a difference in powdered milk or, yeah, powdered, I guess, whether it comes from plant A or plant B or plant C? Is it all at the same standard?
No, no. The one that's made the least is whole milk powder. So the higher fat level, it gums up stuff awful. When you start heating whole milk, the fat doesn't always work out really well. That's a higher skill to make dried whole milk powder. The majority of dried milk is skim milk that is dried. So, you know, pretty much all of the fats out of it. That's easier to make and is one of the major products out there. It's also the product that's covered under the federal orders with a specific price. So the majority out there is non-fat dried milk powder.
That's what we make.
That's
like
what's,
in-
yes, the facility in St. Albans for DFA makes non-fat dried milk powder. Agrimark can make that as well. They do that in Springfield, Mass. And then the facility in Middlebury makes dried whey powders. And there's a lot of different types of dried whey powders based on percentage of protein. But now I'm getting out on the end of my limb and probably starting to saw it off of my knowledge.
Well, we were talking about this yesterday.
Yep.
And about how they use quite a lot of milk products, of dried milk products to manufacture their formula. And I thought it came up in the discussion that didn't come from St. Albans.
I believe Senator Parent indicated to the best of his knowledge it did not.
And we were, you know, we were just wondering why not and the whole deal, but there's a lot of different kinds of dried whey or dried milk dairy products. And they must have to have a certain ingredient to make that as baby formula, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. The inspector who inspects that plant for us stated there's the dried milk powder, there's oils, there's vitamin packages, so there's a lot of things that get added to the dried milk powder to get to the infant formula. So we certainly I don't have the recipe, but certainly it's not only dried milk powder. There's a lot of things that they add into it. The liquids are oils for blending. So dried milk powder and oils for blending, and then the vitamin packs and all that kind of stuff go into a baby formula. So, but you would have to get more details out of them. That's I don't know how much they'd tell you, but that's the basics of an infant formula.
Yeah. Any other questions in regards to that?
No.
No. And did you want to run over your budget?
I will. The last thing for dairy for you folks is the Dairy Margin Coverage Reimbursement Program. We've had a meeting preliminary with USDA Farm Service Agency of what they can provide us for information to try to expedite. We love our farmers, but getting them to send in paperwork isn't always quick or easy. So we're in discussions with Farm Service Agency on what they can provide to us for, a verification of receipt or whatever they can provide. The other aspect that they brought up is that farmers could choose to pay for the program out of the proceeds. So if they're in the program, they said that if they get a payment from the program, they would use that against the premium they paid. And by the end of the year, they have to settle up. So and they would have to settle up by September. So that's kind of some timing of, you made this a reimbursement program, so they haven't paid yet. The state can't pay them. So the timing wise, those who paid up front, once this is up and running, we get the paperwork, we've done everything we're supposed to do, we could pay them right away, but there may be people all the way out to September that haven't finalized, haven't paid it on their own. So that may be, you know, we'll probably be finalizing this program, you know, in mid-October for those who have, you know, finally paid up their bill to USDA before we can reimburse them.
Are you sure that it's September and not August?
They told us September.
Yeah.
So
'Cause
I'll double check, but we were having that conversation with them, and they wanted to make it clear that some people don't have to finish their payments until September. That might have been September 1, but they were clear that it was September. So that would be August 31st, September 1. So, but yeah, so we would be probably will not wrap this program up completely until October. The last time you did a reimbursement program, how many ever years ago, we had some people that USDA was after to finish and pay. And so it went a little longer, that they had 30 days to pay. They hadn't paid yet. So we were out into November before we finished.
Yeah. Have you had any inquiries about the program, or do you know how the sign up is going?
Yeah, been in touch with their new director, John Roberts, and that was last week, 271. So not quite 50% yet for the state of that, you know, commercial dairy farms. So 271 out of our 568. So not halfway yet. So he's anxious. He would like, you know, your announcement today, I hope. And for us, I can't get ahead of the governor. So I can't make an announcement until the governor has signed.
Oh, the bill, he didn't sign it yesterday?
Not to my knowledge.
No.
I
So
think
this-
it was on yesterday in the
going.
House.
Pardon?
I think it was only up for action in the House yesterday. It hasn't gone to the governor, I believe.
No, they said it was on his desk. And, I don't know, maybe. Somebody told me that the House had passed it and had gone to his desk, and I think yesterday he made an announcement that he was not totally happy with everything, but he was gonna sign
Oh,
it. And
Uh,
I'm the only one that heard that news. Must be I have a special channel.
it was messaged to the governor yesterday. So it was passed and messaged yesterday.
Yeah.
So hopeful that, yes, he does sign it quickly, and we'll do an announcement as soon as, but I'm kind of, I've been given my marching orders that until the governor signs it, we're not saying anything yet, but we'll have everything ready to go. As soon as he signs it, we'll push it out and push people to get signed up. The Farm Service Agency, of course, is concerned of a flood of folks right at their deadline, but they'll get them signed up.
Yeah, so we still got until the 25th, so.
Correct. Yeah, if it happens by Friday, we'll get it out, and then that gives what, 2 weeks? Yeah, give a couple weeks to
Be-
get things.
That'd be a good flood to have.
It is a good flood. Yeah. So they're aware, they know, you know, and they know it's in process. So.
Yeah.
That's positive. All right. Budget.
Anything else? We can go right to the budget. And, you know, you haven't been in approach yet. I think the day you were coming, something happened and, right?
I joined in late. Anson and Secretary Tebbets and our financial director, Amy Mercier, presented to Senate approach.
Oh.
I was presenting to somebody else. I don't remember whom, but then I joined in after. So yes, we have talked to Senate approach.
Yeah, we were homers back then, I guess.
Correct. All right. Well, you have our document. I provided it to Linda. And I don't know if you wish to follow along or if there's something specific you want to talk about budget wise. I'd be glad to go direct to your questions, or I can go through the whole thing and walk you through it. What's your pleasure?
Well, I think the high points would be the most important things, Diane. How things are going in general and the highlights of different things like meat inspection or meat slaughter. The dairy stuff we just spent quite a lot of time on. But the slaughter issues, the water quality issues, things like that would be the most important.
Okay, sounds good. Usually we get a start. So are you looking at a document? You want me to put anything up on the screen? What's useful for you all? I can talk, but if you want to have something visual, let me know.
All
right.
You guys need something to see on the screen?
I don't have my iPad, so it'd probably be helpful to have you share your screen.
Linda, do I have that power?
You do.
You're all powerful.
Ooh, what a day.
Yeah, we
All right.
need to hear a little bit on the 2+2 issue too.
Okay. All right. Okay. I am sharing, and let me know if you see a document up on the screen. Okay. So this is our, I'm gonna go back a little here and just move back to the first slide just so you get a look. So this nice little pie chart down here in the bottom, our governor's recommended budget this year is $37,710,000 this year. Special funds is still 44% of our budget. Those special funds are fees and license registration, things that we bring in for the agency. The general fund, 9.98, that's your general fund revenue, 26% of our budget. Federal funds has increased to 28%, and that's really about the Dairy Business Innovation Center prior to this additional 20 million. We had some other grants come in from the feds, so our federal money is up considerably. And then a very small piece of interdepartmental transfer, IDT, 2%. That comes in from Department of Labor, Department of Health, and a little bit from ANR. So those are monies that they receive through other federal programs that come to us. Department of Labor, we're doing the housing inspections now for the H2A program. We're on those farms anyways, so it's a nice synergy for us. The Department of Health is money from the CDC around tick and mosquito-borne illnesses. We do collection of those pests and work with the health department on finding out if those pests are carrying any diseases. And then the money that comes in from ANR is EPA related for water quality. So that's a overall of our budget.
Diane, can I ask you about the positions? Are
Sure.
the 6,137 current ones, or I guess what I'm asking, are there any new positions?
Yep, let's go to that slide. Okay, here's our position grouping. So we have up the top line is 22, and then where we're going for FY23. So we were able to add a meat inspector last year. That is funded half from state funds, half from federal funds. The demand on our slaughter and processing facilities was such that we found a way to do that internally. We utilized a vacant position in the statewide position pool granted to us by the governor's office. So we added a meat inspector last year. We also we're requesting to add a scientist this year to do PFAS testing, the forever chemicals. Our laboratory, with a piece of equipment we're asking for as well, plus an employee, will be able to manage the PFAS testing that's required by ANR. They're bringing samples. They will be bringing samples in. AOT also has testing requirements. We will be able to test those samples for them. Currently, all those samples are being sent to out-of-state labs. So we have our lab in Vermont. They're capable. With an investment, they can do all that testing in-house. So that's a request for an addition of a position. We did some moving around of positions. Water quality, we moved Ryan Patch to be an Ag Climate Policy Program Manager. Climate has the potential to overwhelm us at the agency. It's a lot of what we already do, but the requirements of interacting with everyone else in state government and outside of state government on the climate is something we had to adjust for. So a movement of a position internally. And then the other is the movement of the position from agriculture development to administration. That position does our work on Act 250, the requirement in Act 250 and criteria 9B for primary ag soils. So that's more of an administrative function than a ag development function. So we just moved that position over. So there's our position activities and movements. And we did give up a position. We had one that was funded by a grant, the produce farm inspector. The produce farms that are required to come under the Food Safety Modernization Act program, we requested 2 early inspectors early in that large federal granting program. As we determined how many farms there were to inspect, it was determined that 1 inspector was sufficient. So we have ceased having that position for a second inspector. Because it's grant funded, we can't just say, oh, we'll now put it over here and do some other work. It was specific to that grant, so you can't just shift it somewhere else. So we gave up that position that was grant funded.
Thank you.
All right, I think we were looking at these high profile budget issues. These are all level funded except the working lands. The working lands has been in at 594,000 for many years. Requested this year to bring that base up to $1 million. So adding 406,000 to that to make that granting program $1 million a year. So that's a proposal in our budget and indicated here in these general fund granting programs. So we have the 2+2 program. Thank you, Senator Starr and others for adding some more base funding to that. The base funding is $217,222. Farm to Plate is level funded at $135,000. The Natural Resource Conservation Council level funded at $112,000. Farm to School and Universal Meals are all in that grouping, $171,875. Local food grants, $30,000, and working lands of $1 million. So the 2+2 scholarship, Senator Starr, I have a meeting scheduled for Friday with the folks at VTC. So I don't have any new update on that program. I understand your concerns. I echo those concerns about the letter you received of what's occurring at VTC this coming fall. So I don't have any greater details than that. We have sufficient funding, but I don't know how many students will be expending funds on at this point this fall. So I would ask you to, if possible, have me come back in after this conversation on Friday, because I really just don't have any greater details than that at this point.
Well, that whole issue is kind of bad. I mean, here we are, a pretty decent dairy state, generate a couple $2 billion in revenue and economic development and everything for the state of Vermont. And we aren't even gonna have a working college dairy farm where young people can go and practice modern, up-to-date activities at an active, up-to-date farm. And I don't know, I just feel so bad about that. And I don't know if it's accurate or not, Diane, but somebody told me that they only had 3 students in the 2+2 program, and they weren't sure about 2 of them. If I couldn't go around Vermont and pick up 5 students to go there for tuition free and all of that in a whole spring. I mean, it isn't like they're limited to a 2-day deal. Somebody hasn't been doing their work, and when in private business, if you have somebody that's not doing their work, they leave. And it seems like, I haven't heard of too many leaving the college system, yeah, they have no ag students. Well, you know, and some of my constituents, you know, up in Derby area and well, all over Craftsbury, Albany, you know, over the mountain. I mean, they looked at VTC as a place to send their young children or young farm people to be better educated. And I don't know what's going on, but I guess I got the same letter you got.
Well, I
And-
didn't get a letter, Senator. I think Anson did. So I'm meeting with him Friday, and I would really encourage you to have, you know, either the president of VTC or whoever's in charge of the program down there to have this conversation and invite in UVM as well. Their program is active at UVM, but it is certainly not, we're not fully enrolled. No, we're not. So we're not going to expend much scholarship money this coming year.
UVM's got a beautiful setup, but it's set up to train those little rich kids from out of state that come up there to get some dairy experience so they can get into vet school. I mean, hell, we've known what's going on up there for years. And I mean, our little 2+2 kids couldn't go to them or didn't have too much access to that facility. It was a cream program.
Yep.
But anyways.
But anyways, all right. The other one that is in front of you, I think, is the Natural Resource Conservation Council. So that is associated with the Vermont Association of Conservation Districts. And I know you've heard from them, and we've heard from them as well regarding a further ask for base funding for their organization. So in our budget this year, the amount we spend, so it's a pass through. The Natural Resource Conservation Council exists in statute. It's been in our budget for years, level at 112. I think it's been level since 2009 at 112,000. So yeah. Yeah, 10, at least 10 years. So that's been level funded a long time. It supports the council, but also goes out to the 14 different conservation districts. It's not a lot of money. We understand that, but there was no other funding source for us to tap into to assist. So I support the governor's budget as proposed. But that we understand there's a request before you to adjust the appropriations committee and also Senate Ag committee to find additional funds for base funding for the council and the conservation district. So we understand that they do tremendous work in water quality for the state and for farmers, and we support all of the work that they do. But this is what we have available at this point for funding.
Yeah, that, we had them in, or on, of course, on Zoom a couple of weeks ago, and they have to, I mean, they have to write grants almost every day to stay afloat. And, you know, it would be nice to, if they didn't have to sit there and write grants and beg for money so they could keep working and doing good work. But anyways, we're dealing with that. Hopefully we can give them some more money, and it's going to be rough because it's got to actually should go to the base.
Right.
Yes,
No.
yes.
Just one time, that's leading them astray. So it's really got to be base money, and that's a lot harder to do than one-time money.
Well, there were some one-time requests too, I think, Mr. Chair.
Well, little ones,
Yeah,
but the big one was base. money.
yeah, it was, you're right.
Million.
But this is where it would go, Diane. In other words, this is the only part of your budget that touches the conservation districts?
For base funding, they avail themselves tremendously of the Clean Water Fund granting programs that we have. So granting programs, not supporting their base funding, but yes, this is base general fund dollars that support the Resource Council and pass through to conservation districts. That's it.
Okay, what does the council do, Diane?
Well, that's a good question. They're in statute. They have a lot of, they do exist in statute back from the 40s, I think. So they
Okay.
technically, I think they could come in for their own budget actually, and not even be a pass through the agency if they wanted to, and you folks granted them to do so. I don't know when it all got rolled into the agency. When I started within budgets in 2008, they were a part of our budget then. They are a group of volunteers who come from across the state and talk about the needs for conservation. And they interact closely with their individual conservation districts in their home areas of the state. So they're kind of a coordinating body for activities. There's representation from UVM Extension, from the Agency of Ag, and from the Agency of Natural Resources. And the organization of this council has kind of been passed around. It was Extension for a while, and then it got passed off to A&R for a while, and it's in our bailiwick at this point to assist them. They're a little stronger right now than they have been in the past. Sometimes it's been an ebb and flow since I took over in 2008 of pulling teeth to get somebody to serve. Now they're they're pretty organized right now and making these requests than they were, 10 years ago. So it kind of, it ebbs and flows, volunteer leadership, et cetera. But that's kind of their role, as an overview of what's occurring in the state and where to direct the conservation districts to go if they
Years
can.
ago, the executive director or the person in charge used to be right at the ag agency and worked part-time at that.
Yep.
And now, the last 10 or 12 years or more, they've had Jill look after it, but she's certainly not connected with you folks. But do you remember?
Yeah, I do. That was in the big bad days of 2008, 2009. The agency got down to 83 employees and we had to cut 5. And that was one of them. I mean, the axe was out and we had to cut employees, and that was one that went.
Yeah, so that's why it went.
It's gone.
Never got replaced.
No, there's never been funding for that. I mean, specifically when you've provided us employees or increased staff, it's been very specific that they will do water quality, or they will do working lands, or they will do meat inspection, or they will do dairy inspection. It has never been, and technically, did we need someone to organize the councils? Jill has done a good job on her own, keeping things organized and moving them forward. Is there specifically a need for a position at the agency to do that? Are they connected enough with our water quality employees around granting and activities that do we need someone at the agency to specifically do that? I don't know that I could argue for that, needing a position at this point to do that.
Yeah. Any other questions?
No, again, I said my piece when we had them in. I think it's one of the best, the districts themselves, I think it's one of the best things that we do. When they show up on a farm, they're welcomed and they work well together with folks and get things done. So I'm still very hopeful we can find some ways to get them some more funding.
Yeah, no argument. We support all of the work that they do. Absolutely. We're and they're doing a great job. And, we support the governor's budget as proposed, but that one, they do a lot of great work for us and absolutely support all the work they do.
Yeah, when a farmer's having problems with water quality or something of that nature, and they go in, you found their work to be well done.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, good. Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Other areas of concern or question around our budget? I can, would you like an overview of working lands or anything like that? Or have you heard a lot about that?
Yeah, we've had Gus in special.
Yeah, the fair stipend issue, didn't we raise that, or did we just send them extra
One
money?
time, I think.
Yeah, you did a one-time, right? This is base funding. Yeah. And we have, this does not include the capital funds for the capital granting. That's another 200,000. Yeah. So this is not the only money the fairs, this is the stipend money. Fairs are also eligible for capital investment money as well.
Yeah, and, they're all doing quite well, or coming out of.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the COVID was difficult for all of them, and everybody's extremely hopeful that this is more of a normal year.
Yeah,
Last year they were open, but there were still concerns for folks of going to places or not, and so hopefully that that aspect will be less of a concern this summer. Let's hope.
yeah,
So
Any,
the one piece that I will draw your attention to, we were asked clearly to provide the area that COVID had the most impact on the agency. And the one that really stands out for us is the Eastern States Exhibition, the Big E. So that giving you some history there on this slide of what these are revenues that come in from the vendors. We have a contract with them, and a portion of their sales comes to the agency. So FY19, that was $221,433. FY20, $235,976, and FY21, $793. So the closure of the Eastern States Exhibition in September 2020, which is fiscal year 21, that $793 that came in was a late payment from the year before. So basically there was zero revenue for that time frame. And then in September of calendar year 21,
Diane,
what's
No,
that?
did not.
wasn't no fair in 21.
Correct. So really the revenue was zero. The 793 came in like July 10th of 2020. So that would have been in the new fiscal year, but from the old fair. So they did hold the Eastern States Exhibition September 2021, but it was still modified, limited number of people, mass, still concerns out there. So our funding was half of what it's even a little less than half of what it's been in the past. So the agency adjusted for that. We have a person that it is their role to manage this. The person moved on. The timing was really interesting, where we chose to delay filling that position, knowing that are we going to have revenue or not? This revenue helps pay for the building maintenance, costs to keep it going, electric bills, those, the supplies to open the building, those kind of things, but also a position. We chose to keep a position vacant longer until we decided, figured out where things were. So that's how we made it through with really zero revenue in FY21 around that, those special funds from the Eastern States Exhibition. So that was our really direct, specific COVID impact for the agency.
I was down there for, I don't know, three days or 4. I wasn't too impressed with our building this year.
Mhm.
There was a lot of people at the fair. I mean, it was unreal. And when I, was mulling around but I didn't think our building, well, not only our building, other buildings of the state's buildings were not fully ramped up. They, there was quite a few exhibitors missing. Vermont Maple even wasn't there. And, they usually take that whole wall to the right as you walk in the front.
We had some last minute cancellations that were too late to refill as well. So we're working hard to get vendors in for this coming year and make sure the building is full. We're also requesting some fairly substantial capital investments in that building. It needs work. And so that's moving its way through the capital request for FY23 as well. So yeah, there's some work to do there. So we're hopeful that we are back to fully occupied by vendors, but also fully no concerns for COVID, and really move things along in FY23 this coming fall.
As you visit those other state buildings, ours may be in a little bit of disrepair, but if you look at all of them, ours looks pretty damn good. You know,
Yeah.
compared to the rest of them, that is.
Yeah,
No.
well, we've got some things that the building inspector came in for Springfield, Massachusetts, and there's some things that need to be done. So
Yeah, wiring and.
why, yeah, lots of things. So we're going to hopefully get that funded and work on that. How about working land? Well, there's a couple of things we have some one-time asks as well that maybe I better get you filled in on here. Double check here. All right, the one-time asks are important. This is an ag development budget, a one-time ask for the strategic branding program, $100,000. We're requesting that. It's a general fund one-time request to really dig in some deeper and on the Vermont brand. You know, there's a lot of anecdotal information that it does wonders for us, but what's true on that and what can we capitalize on? So really doing a strategic branding discussion there. And also Know for Vermont. They're caught between some granting cycles for some of the programs that provide assistance for low income as well as health challenged people to access food at farmers markets. So this 200,000 is important to get them through for this summer, but also the next granting cycle so they can get, come across that money again. So this is kind of a bridge to keep those programs going through this summer season at the farmers markets. So those are a couple of important asks there.
What did you have in mind for the strategic branding section?
We would contract out with a firm to dig in of what is the true value of a Vermont brand. What is it? What do you say about it? Who do you say it to? And dig into that deeper. Because we hear and we think we know, but what exactly do we know? And then how do we capitalize on it?
Yeah, that would be very important if we were going to spend money on advertising, which is very expensive, to make sure it goes in the right places. Yeah, absolutely.
The Working Lands Initiative. So this is kind of an update on total requests for FY20. The request for granting in FY22 was over $10 million. And so these have come in and we're making decisions. So 600,000 went out to service providers, 500,000 standard business infrastructure projects, 619,000 to meat processing and slaughter. You asked us to set aside 500 for that, so 500,000. So we're above that. Producer associations, 183,000, and we got 3.2 million pending review of the market level infrastructure projects. We'll get those awards out in April, but we know we have more funds, more requests than required. So the ARPA money, the 2 million that was in the BA, the Budget Adjustment Act, we'll probably add to that 3.2 million, the pending review potentially to support some of those. We'll have to have very clear conversations with the applicants that they're now applying for a different pot of money. ARPA is different than the other funds that are available here. So we have to make them well aware of what their requirements are. The agency has requirements to report weekly on how grantees are expending these funds. So we will be after these applicants weekly. What are you doing with these ARPA funds? That includes the water quality. That will probably include the dairy margin coverage. So there's some heady requirements around using ARPA funds. So the dairy margin coverage might be small enough amounts that they don't need that weekly reporting, but the best management practice, water quality funds, and then the potential for these larger market level infrastructure projects. If you go above 200,000, it's weekly reporting. So that's a higher demand on those who have applied. So we need to make that clear to them up front. Yes, they applied under regular old working lands money, but if they're going to receive ARPA money, the requirements have changed. So that will be a choice of theirs of can they meet those requirements or not. So that's a little different. So we need to clearly communicate with people that this money is different. And then we're requesting to increase our base. So we feel, very confident on our ability to get the money out the door. But then making sure people are aware of the requirements around any of the ARPA funding. I think you've heard from Laura Ginsburg around working on the Northeast Area Business Innovation Center. A couple of the other one-time requests that we made, the laboratory, Vermont Ag Environmental Lab in Randolph, we're requesting a position, a chemist 4, to be able to do the testing for PFAS chemicals, and then also a piece of equipment related to that. These are not cheap pieces of equipment, $420,000 one-time funding to get this equipment. We'll be working closely with ANR and AOT. Their testing will come to the lab. And also we've put aside a little money in the public health, ag resource management, the farm budget to do some agricultural PFAS testing. But all of those will be able to be completed at our laboratory. And that will hopefully save money overall. The laboratory can't undercut a private lab. We can be competitive, but the timing and the shipping costs, those kind of things should get reduced doing the samples in Vermont versus sending them out of state. And we have this lab, we should be using it to the extent possible to do all the sampling for the state that we can do.
ANR pay when they come to have these tests done, they pay ag, or how does that work on who pays for what? If we have to pay for the lab update to get it ready for this, how's that shake out, Diane?
So they would pay, the model set up right now for others in the state government is to pay per sample. So ANR pays per sample of water or whatever else, air testing, whatever they're requesting from the ag lab is paid per sample. Same would be for AOT. We have it calculated that we're asking for general funds. If we were an entrepreneurial business, this will pay back in 4 years. So we will be off. We will not be requiring general funds. We're requesting general funds to hire this position, but it is expected within a year's time that we will not need general funds to support the position. And, a payback on the total investment would be 4 years or less. So if we were an entrepreneurial business taking out a loan, this would be a very good decision. We're not, we're state government. And so this is the means of which we have to get this equipment. We have not asked ANR to invest or AOT to invest in the equipment with us. Budgetarily, that's a bit cumbersome, but they will pay as they go for the testing they need. We know that ANR has requirements for testing of water and wells and schools and a lot of ongoing PFAS testing. This is not a one-off. And the same with AOT, airports and firefighting foam and all these questions. So this is not something this will last for many years. And so in the means of state government of how you get things done, this is the method. If we were in the private sector, we probably would have asked our other partners to invest, but this is the way it happens in state government.
So Diane, excuse me, the position, I guess I should have been a chemist. It looks like there's an increase on the bottom part of this of benefits, a rate increase and also a benefit increase. Does that 97,730 include those?
Salary and benefits, complete, yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thank
benefits went up like mad. We had a 25% increase in the pension and then a 14% increase in healthcare. So it's painful, very painful, but it is what it is. So we have to figure that out. So yeah, that's the plan on the lab.
And what exactly is a level, is it level 4? I don't
Yes.
know about chemistry, but, so are there 4 levels total, and what is this gentleman?
We have
or-
this is the scientists at the laboratory. We have a chemist 1 through 5 and a biologist 1 through 5. So different levels of experience, expertise, et cetera, coming in.
Okay.
So in state government, we do a lot of, they call them career ladders. So someone who comes right out of high school, or well, this might take a little college, but the potential to work your way in and start at one level and progress. But this one requires a level of knowledge and skills that we can't start at a 1. So the ability to test these chemicals takes some knowledge and skills that it merits a level 4.
Yep, okay, thank you.
Yep. The other one, so we did request $1 million for the payment for ecosystem services. You put that group in place, the working group on ecosystem services. They provided a report to the legislature last year requesting this $1 million to continue this program, put out a pilot to start this payment program. We've heard on the House side, there's some concerns coming out of House Natural Resources that we're not ready for the $1 million, but we would counter that we are. This working group is moving forward and is in the place now of determining what to pay on specifically. So they're working through that process. So timing of this, of being available for July 1st on, we feel confident that we are ready for this $1 million and to start standing up a pilot program. And the, let's see, is there American Rescue Plan dollars? We were provided $5 million for the climate action investments. So that would expand our agronomic practices to improve soil health and prevent emissions. We're cover cropping, conservation tillage, and grazing practices. We may peel off a little bit of that to look at the anaerobic digestion of manure. That's a very expensive proposition, but also one that has a tremendous impact on reducing methane greenhouse gas emissions. So we may peel off a little money for that, but the plan for the majority is to invest further in the cover cropping, conservation tillage, and grazing practices for our farms in Vermont. So that is important to know that we were granted those funds, or they're in our budget if that's approved. The request is there.
Yeah.
And I think besides these performance-based budgeting data, I think that's the highlights. Yeah, that's the highlights. Let's see if there's any other one time I missed here. We talked about those. Yeah, so that's the big gist of our budget. We are certainly, pleased. We don't have any specific pressures at this point. We're certainly, managing through the meat with a new person on board from last year, so that's helpful. Dairy is sorted out pretty well at the moment. We're covering everything. Water quality, we're in a pretty good place. Things have sorted out there as well with the number of inspectors, number of engineers. We're in a pretty good place. The area that is of interest, and we'll have to probably keep an eye on that, is this issue around the PFAS, the plastics on farms, all those questions around farms and what happens with those things that are brought to farms. We've rumbling around at this point, getting started, certainly an area of concern. Do we have the staffing to manage those kind of things? That may come up in future years. The other that may come up in future years is the electric vehicle charging stations. Just like a gas pump, the Agency of Agriculture would be the ones to regulate, are you getting the number of electrons that you pay for out of an EV charging station? That is not a this year, but certainly we were hopeful it would be this year, but at the national level, they have not sorted out the testing protocols. We rely on the national testing protocols for all of our weights and measures work. So we could go at our own, but it's probably stronger to wait for them. So we're still in a holding pattern, but nationally, this is becoming a bigger and bigger question across all the different weights and measures programs of we should be regulating these, but nobody's quite ready yet. And there's an explosion of funding to add more and more charging stations across the state. What we have done in Vermont is work with the Agency of Transportation and now the Agency of Commerce and Community Development of what charging stations they're granting funds to be installed, and do those charging stations meet the basic requirements for a sale of the transfer of electrons. So like a gas pump, when you pull up, you know you're going to get gallons, and you know you can see the price per gallon. So that basic display now of how much per electron, how much per kilowatt, or how much per megajoule, we expect everything will be kilowatt. So those does that charging station at least minimum display that? That's the minimum requirement now. So making sure that the partners who are making those grants have that requirement of those they're granting money to install these charging stations. So we're trying to make sure that we don't put those in that won't meet the base requirements at this point. But those are coming.
Aren't those, they run off electricity like you use in your house, so why wouldn't they just have a little meter on them that would measure the electricity use?
They will certainly have to pay the power company for their electricity, but what are they doing to the consumer? There's lots of different charges that appear to be happening. In some cases, you pull in, you park, and you get a base rate. That you park for 4 hours, you pay so much per hour. That's not legally how it's supposed to work. Or that you pay so much per kilowatt, and then because you walked away and left your car there longer, you get a penalty for holding the space too long. So there's a lot of stuff going on out there that's beyond the metered amount of power from the power company. The Agency of Agriculture doesn't have jurisdiction over the meters for the power company that's on your house. So we only have jurisdiction on these charging stations where it's the individual consumer pulling up to a charging station.
Has somebody confronted you people with expending money to figure this all out? I mean,
we know what we're going to need to do, but we don't have the regulatory protocol yet to do it. So we know we've worked it all out what we're going to need, but we're not ready to implement in FY21.
well, why wouldn't the public service department be in charge of that if it was dealing with electric usage and all of that?
Legislatively, you have provided the regulatory authority for weights and measures to the Agency of Agriculture in Title IX. And this we consider a weights and measures activity. There's a opinion by the Public Utilities Commission that the Agency of Agriculture would regulate the commercial charging of electric vehicles as well. So they agree with the agency that this is a weights and measures issue from Title IX.
I think I would have let them cap that deal, the end of that deal.
They don't want it. They're pretty clear, Senator Starr, they don't want it. But we already have staff in the field. We already have, what we don't have. So we have staff in the field. They got fleet vehicles. They're out checking gas pumps. They're out in stores. So they're out there already. So giving this to another agency to stand up a duplicate group of people out in the field seems a bit repetitive. So we're already out there. What we will need a staff person and the meters to do the test. Currently, there's a couple companies that provide these meters. They're with training, 52,000 each. And currently they'll do there's 3 levels of charger, level 1, level 2, level 3. 1 is very slow, 2 is a little faster, 3 is fast charge. These meters will be able to determine the electron transfer for a level 1 or 2 charger. Level 3s provide so much power so fast that the meters have caught on fire. So we got a little problem with level 3s, and that's what everybody wants to install because you want a fast charge not a slow charge. So they're working to upgrade those meters, may change the cost in the future, but so we would need 2 or 3 meters, 1 staff person, et cetera. So we know we're prepping, we're studying, but the question of when to start is not an FY23.
Well, I
We'll be
guess
back.
it's good to get ready, but I wouldn't be running.
We've only had a few complaints from consumers at this point of concerns of what they got charged and how. So that there isn't a big demand on that, but the more these proliferate, the more of these we have, the more potential concerns we expect. Proliferate there. Okay, got it out.
Yeah.
I can see in the future, if this goes the way some people think it will, that you're gonna need a lot more staff and a lot more meters running around.
Possibly, yeah, and that's certainly a concern area. We've done the work on it. We have a chart that says this number of meters, 1 employee, this number of charging stations, this many employees. So we know,
Yeah.
we've worked it out. Currently, the number of meters in the state would warrant 1 employee. But yes, the other question is, do we see as the future progresses, you have more charging stations, do you have less gas stations? So these people that are working on gas stations are now working on electric. We can't quite predict that one of when gas stations start to close or start to add electric and not pump gas anymore. Yeah, the future is going to be real interesting.
Actually, what they're talking about now is when you set up a charging station, you set up a little store where people buy Vermont products.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Wait half hour, so you have
Yeah.
you have sandwiches and stuff like that, and things that people can sit and eat while they're waiting for their car to charge.
Absolutely.
Plenty,
Yeah.
plenty of lottery tickets and booze and, the good things that all Vermont made, maybe. But anyhow, anything else, Diane?
That's a pretty broad overview of our budget. If you look through that document and have any other further questions, please feel free to contact me. I didn't give you the full load of every detail, but I'd be glad to talk further. Anything you have questions on. Hopeful that things will progress. I'll keep you posted on the dairy margin coverage. We'll get that up and running as soon as we can, but I just want to be clear one more time that not going to be quite as simple or quick as we'd hoped for with ARPA dollars than it could have been with general funds. So just want to make sure that we will move it as fast as we can. Farmers may get balky of what they may have to provide for information to access these funds. It may be greater detail than I'd hoped, et cetera. So we'll get there, but it may not quite be as simple.
Shouldn't it all be the same material for every farm? Because the only difference is the amount of milk they send. So but everything else should be identical.
Well, it's the requirements of ARPA. Why are we providing them these funds? You gave us what you wanted to do, but the Treasury Department has requirements for why. Why are you providing this money and why does it meet ARPA standards? And if it meets ARPA standards, this is the information we need from each individual that applies.
It covers the margin between what they pay for their milk and what they're paying for their feed. It's but is that ARPA eligible, and what does the farmer have to prove that it's ARPA eligible? That's the hard part. Well,
and so I agree with you that it should be a really simple program, but the use of ARPA funds requires more out of the applicant beyond what the program wants to pay for. Why are you, individual farmer, eligible? So it's just going to be slower.
Didn't O'Grady send you guys the material from JFO where they checked this all out and it was an allowable use of funds?
Allowable, but then what the requirements are for those who apply for them is what we have to put in place. So I will keep you posted of what those are, but there are Treasury guidelines that we have to meet, and what are those guidelines, and what reporting and what information is required from those who apply. besides just what we want to pay on, I agree with you, that's really simple. But the treasury requirements for each applicant may be
The
more, I'm a little worried that farmers are going to take a look and say for $7,500, go pound sand, Agency of Agriculture. So I don't know. We'll see.
Talking about the US Treasury or
Yep.
the Vermont State Treasury?
United
US.
States Treasury, the ones who have the requirements around how to spend ARPA dollars.
Yeah,
I'll get back
Well-
in touch with you. I gotta, we weren't the first one they want to talk about for a program, but we have to provide all the information of what this program is, who's going to receive the money. So there's a process for us, and we'll get started on that, building the granting program. And then they'll give us a determination through the Treasury lens of US Treasury lens of, the allowable, and then what the applicants are going to have to provide us to determine that they can receive these funds. So it's a process.
North Carolina, maybe in Virginia, they've already done this. Maybe a phone call to them would be
Yep.
helpful.
We're glad to talk with them, and we will.
Yeah.
So yeah, timing is everything. Like, once the governor, the fact that it's headed for his desk, we can now start to really dig in and start moving on this. We've done some preliminary work, but certainly more to do, and we'll get it going.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much, Diane. Appreciate your time and your info, and we'll be talking.
Sounds good. Thank you very much, Senator, and thank you all. And if you have any questions, please feel free to send them my way.
Will
Yeah.
do.
Thank you.
Okay, so at 11 o'clock, we got people coming
Okay.
from the house.
So we can have a little break?